Where are WikiLeaks today? Is the organisation still going?
Well, it's there in sorts, but it's on nothing of the kind of scale of operation it was at. You know, Julian Assange is restricted to this sort of back bedroom in the Ecuadorian embassy in Kensington, and they are still releasing material, but it's nothing like the impact of what they used to have. You know, their last release was a load of US archive material, which was actually already on the internet. They've also leaked a film script of a film about WikiLeaks. Kind of when 3 years ago they were putting up this huge challenge to the biggest government in the world, it's not quite the same thing now.
Is it because of Bradley Manning that he's been caught, that he's facing such enormous punishment, that people aren't prepared to give material to WikiLeaks anymore?
I suspect it's because people like Bradley Manning are just really quite rare. I mean, people with not only the access, and of course whether he should have had that access is a question, but people who actually have access to it and then have the courage and the ability to see out of the system and actually release it. It's really rare. I mean, I think before Manning, the only one who'd done it on a big scale was Ellsberg with the Pentagon Papers, and 40 years happened between those. You know, I think maybe WikiLeaks just happened to be the outlet for a kind of once-in-a-generation whistleblower.
And do you feel guilty that you're sat here talking about this and Bradley Manning is facing probably a lifetime in prison for something that happened through the organisation when you were working there?
Yes and no. I mean, I joined after Manning was already in custody, and I do think overall WikiLeaks did the right thing in publishing the material, even though the source was in prison. It was clear from the chat transcripts that he wanted it out and knew he could face consequences for it. What does concern me is whether more could have been done to protect Manning in advance, and whether this WikiLeaks model of you just submit stuff and then no more contact works. I think it protects WikiLeaks, but does it protect the source? He clearly needed someone to talk to, and it was talking to somebody he shouldn't that got him caught.
WikiLeaks do have some responsibility for the situation he finds himself in?
I think they do. I think it would be unfair to say it's their fault. I think as well, whatever you think of the releases, it's very difficult to look at how Manning's been treated and the sentence he faces and see it as remotely sane or fair. But I wonder whether WikiLeaks should look at how it operates and whether it can provide more support for sources. It feels like they've fixed a technological problem, which was serious but not that major, and just completely ignored all of the human issues and the psychological issues around whistleblowing.
And when people look at the treatment of Bradley Manning, both by the US authorities and what happened to him in his relationship with WikiLeaks, do you think anybody would dare give you that kind of information ever again?
I think people will still blow the whistle. I think everyone knows that it's something which is quite a difficult act, but we focus on the gossip that was in the cables and all this kind of thing. You know, as Channel 4 dispatchers revealed, you know, there was lots of evidence of torture in these documents, hundreds of thousands of deaths, all kind of bad practices that were happening not necessarily because the US was malicious, but just because of the secrecy. I think when people see that kind of thing, they will be moved to act. What I hope we learn how to do as journalists, all of us, is help protect them and help make it easier and help make it safer. And also, I think, to highlight the kind of treatment that Manning's had for it. You know, he was sort of forced to stand naked outside of his cell. He was actually found to have been punished before he was even sentenced. And they made the pathetic gesture of dropping any eventual sentence he can get, which could be decades, by 112 days. It's pitiful.